Sam, why don't you start? I know you wanted to talk with some Browns, man. Let's talk about some Browns.
Man, this is kind of goes back to what we were talking about last year, when the Browns kind of crept up on everybody and
Yep.
everyone's having a good time and everything's fun and
Yeah.
everyone, loves Baker and all that stuff. And I've been a big Baker fan.
Baker,
Still like
Baker,
Baker.
touchdown maker.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I still like Baker, but we've seen that this season has not started off the way that I think they or anybody else like really projected, but I'm not too surprised
No.
by the start by the Browns. But you could tell it's kind of deflating their team a little bit. Baker, first off, Baker looks like crap, and just body wise, the guy. I mean, he looks like a 35-year-old guy that like maybe sometimes get outs and like runs around his neighborhood like once a week. I mean, he looks awful. Like, I mean, I saw it like there was like a side by side with him and Jimmy Garoppolo, and it looked like Jimmy was meeting like a fan. Like it looked awful, and like he's
Garoppolo.
kind of got like a beer gut, and like he's
Yeah.
just it's just kind of like I feel like
He's like
he's
your
got a
really good
lot.
flag football quarterback.
Right, yeah. Like I feel like he's gotten, gotten a little comfortable.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of commercial shoots, a lot of that kind of stuff. And he doesn't look comfortable out there. I think for him to be a good player, he's got to have that swag and that chip on his shoulder,
Hmm.
and he just looks really defeated right now. On top of looking like, he's ordering Papa John's every day when he gets home, full pizza by himself, and getting the free 2 liter, and just not doing anything else the
I
rest of the
by the
day.
way, I
So
I pulled that move off at Brad's last week when I was in Miami. We
I
got
mean,
two,
it's a good move,
it's a
but
good move, man.
maybe if you're starting on Sunday,
And believe me,
maybe save
I
that.
look like I ate a whole pizza. Believe me,
Yeah,
I need to cut
I
some
mean, we
weight.
can kill pizza, but it's not a good look for a 23-year-old starting NFL quarterback. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's especially who's undersized, man. You gotta make sure you're coming in tip top shape, especially with all this, expectations on you, and on the team. Um,
Yeah.
That's the one time I could say I'm really kind of a little disappointed in him when I saw those pictures. I was like, really? Like,
Yeah.
that's not a good look, man. I'm not body shaming. I'm just saying, like, we always talk like peak level. I mean, these are these guys' careers. This is what they do.
This is what they do.
The same way we go and spend 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day at our job. Their job is to be in shape. They have all the stuff, at their disposal. They can
Hmm.
still probably eat like crap because he's 23, 24,
Yeah. Sure.
and work out for 2 hours, and he'd be great. That's not something that you usually have to deal with till you're older. But I feel like that whole thing needs to be tightened up. What do you think, man?
Yeah, so I think let me just do this, and I know we're going to be airing this segment on YouTube. So let me counter a couple of things. Let me just say this first: Sam and I are not hating on Cleveland, the city. We're not hating on the Browns. I know a lot of people have a trouble with criticism, like super super hardcore fans have trouble with like criticism, and your instinct, if you're watching this and you're a big Browns fan, your instinct is to fall behind Baker and all that stuff. Sam and I like Baker Mayfield, and Sam was on Baker before I was. I was critical of him, but he won me over last year. Um, but the Browns, man, they're not playing well, and I'll talk a little bit about schematically why I think that is. I've said it in a couple different episodes and everything, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Baker, in terms of being in shape, there's the quarterback, Sam. The quarterback isn't like all the other positions, so the objective isn't to be like ripped. I see what you're saying, and I do agree with you, but let me just explain
Right.
this point on your behalf a little bit. The quarterback's objective isn't to be ripped, and case in point, RG3. When I was big heavy into the Redskins, he comes in and people are always talking about, hey, he spends like 4 hours in the gym. He's so in shape. He doesn't have an ounce of body fat. Well, that's not what a quarterback needs. Quarterback needs a little bit of body fat probably because they're taking so many hits, and the quarterback needs to be spending those 4 hours in the film room. So my assumption, I don't know if this is true or not, and I'm not in the building. My assumption is that Baker Mayfield is putting in that time in the film room. But Sam, to your point, I agree with that. To be he's not a physical specimen anyway. He's a guy that plays and is fueled by the chip on his shoulder. He's always out there, and I think he's controversial and polarizing, but I think that's what he thrives on, the me versus you, the us versus them mentality, and I think that's why players kind of like him. And if I was a player, I really would like to play with Baker Mayfield. I think the whole problem with Cleveland, and I said this really from the get-go in our season preview and all this stuff, is the hype behind Cleveland was so strong coming into the season because of what they did. And again, having been a Redskins, I've been talking a lot of Redskins this week because of the Jay Gruden stuff and just the mess of that franchise. I lived through, they're my boyhood team. My family's from the D.C., Baltimore area. I like the Orioles and I like the Redskins. The Ravens
you were a former season ticket holder.
Former season ticket holder on 2 occasions for the Redskins. And I don't root for the Redskins anymore because Dan Snyder has completely soured me on that organization. It's just disgusting what he's done to that. And that's a segment for, I've already have that segment up there. If you're interested in watching, look for on youtube.com/the Underdog. Look for the playlist. It's called 3-Point Stance, and I think it says Jay Gruden's firing or something like that. But 3 reasons why Jay Gruden got fired, I think, is the title of that video. But for Cleveland, they got this guy Haslam. I don't Jerry Haslam something. I don't know. But Haslam, their owner, comes in, and the trajectory of this franchise is exactly what Snyder did, cycling through head coaches, no direction. They go all in with Shashi Brown and the analytics. They get all these draft picks, which I was super in favor of. And then Shashi Brown did some weird stuff. He blew some moves. He blew a bunch of the draft picks. They couldn't. Those draft picks, you can acquire all the draft picks in the world, but if you can't hit on your picks, I mean, they're worthless. And that's what was happening. Then they get Dorsey in there, and Dorsey just goes the opposite way. He starts trading all those assets for veteran players, which again I'm not super opposed to, but I think he traded too many of those draft picks away for the players. So to me, what Cleveland looked like, and I've said this before the season, I said, look, Cleveland could either be, with what they've been doing, they could either be like the 1990-91 Dallas Cowboys, who they basically rebuilt from scratch. They had Jimmy Johnson. They had young energy. They're an exciting team. Or they could be the 1998-99 Redskins with Norv Turner, Dan Snyder cycling through, impatient, get a bunch of veteran players. The locker room chemistry gets all goofy because you keep adding these people in and paying these people that weren't part of the building process and the pain of going 0-16 or whatever they were, 1-15. And, you get that in there, and it's one or the other. And my thing is Freddie Kitchens the Jimmy Johnson type that can keep and rally the troops and use that to the advantage? Or is he is Freddie Kitchens the Norv Turner type that is just as a head coach, And I think we're seeing this season that Kitchens is more like Norv Turner to me. I think this job is way beyond him. He has a very Jim Zorn-like feel. But Jim Zorn was kind of nicer and ho-hum about, the press conferences. Kitchens, a little bit more in your face. That's why I think he and Baker Mayfield, I think, melded well together last year. Although I don't have any facts or anything about this, but I get the sense. I don't get the sense. I just have a feeling that this Baker Mayfield-Kitchens relationship is going to erode because Kitchens, I think, going to lose that locker room. And I think how to get that locker room back, and again, I've been saying this for weeks. I've been banging this drum for a while. Nick Chubb, in my opinion, is one of the 3 best running backs in the league, if not the best. And I said this, I don't know if it was here or get paid or whatever. If I was an NFL GM, and let's just say you had all the running backs, you were just redraft, like let's say it's Madden, you're starting a franchise, you can draft any running back you want, and I have the first pick of running backs, I take Chubb. I take him over McCaffrey. I take him over Saquon Barkley because he gives you that electricity. He can take anything to the house if you get him in space, and he's powerful enough to move the pile. So his power numbers are better than Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. Maybe he doesn't have the shiftiness, but he does have the explosiveness. I take him over any of those backs. I think he is the best back in the league for my money. And to me, the Browns should be running the entire offense through Nick Chubb. They shouldn't use, they're running him, and they've been running him a little bit more. Okay, great, they have been. But we saw it against the Rams. They get first and goal. I think there's a minute left. They have 3 timeouts. They don't run the ball. Run the freaking ball. And even tactically, it's the right move because you don't want to score with 35 seconds to let Jared Goff and Sean McVay march down the field, get a field goal, and beat you. He's just not doing the right thing. And what happens, and I'm not throwing any shade at Baker Mayfield at this point, what happens when you run the ball is linebackers have to crowd up, safeties have to crowd up, play action works better. You get more one-on-one matchups with the Odell Beckham. So if you commit to the run, then you have Odell Beckham doing Odell Beckham things. He can beat double coverage. He's, of course, going to beat single coverage. You have Baker Mayfield having more time to throw. He doesn't have to run out. You're just playing to everybody's strengths. Baker Mayfield can have that 35-touchdown season if he's throwing the ball 25 times a game. And let me tell you, Russell Wilson, Sam, last week on Thursday Night Football, 23 passing attempts, 23 attempts for Russell Wilson, 17 completions, 4 touchdowns. That's the kind of stat line Baker Mayfield should be putting up. He's got a similar body type to those guys. He's not in as good a shape, Sam, to your point, as Russell Wilson. I don't think he's as fast as Russell Wilson. He's got a similar body shape to Gardner Minshew. But what's different? Gardner Minshew, they're committing to the run in Jacksonville. Russell Wilson, they're committing to the run in Seattle. Cleveland, I think they bought into their hype a little bit too much, and they want to be this air run and gun show. Well, dude, even the Buffalo Bills in the 90s, which Brad and I are like, hey, they're not the 1993 Buffalo Bills, and they're not. But even the Buffalo Bills use freaking Thurman Thomas. He's a Hall of Fame running back. You gotta commit to the run. You got to. And it's going to open things up in the passing game. There's no reason Cleveland right now, what are they? Are they 2-3, Sam? There's no reason they shouldn't be 3-2, maybe even 4-1. They've been in some really good games, but their play calling sucks, and I am out on Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, Freddie Kitchens. I also think, with the addition of, Odell, now I feel like they're trying to force it.
Yes.
Because now they're like, oh, we have Landry on one side, we got Odell on the other. Like, let's force it. And it's like, let it come.
Let it come.
Like, to your point, like, if they can't stop Chubbs, like, you're eventually going to get those guys open, But if you keep, like, lasered out, like, we're just going to keep throwing the ball, like, I don't care who you have out there, man. It's going to be easier to guard.
And to me, and it could be a number of things, right? It could be everybody's just buying into the hype. It could be the ownership. Could be like in Washington, the ownership could be meddling in the game planning, or Dorsey. Maybe they're like, hey, we got this star, we want to market him. Baker should be throwing for 40 touchdowns this year. He had a fantastic rookie year. I think he threw for more touchdowns than any other rookie in history last year, after a slow start, mind you, and not even getting the start at the beginning of his rookie season. So had a great second half. They might be saying, hey, feed him. Just like Dan Snyder was saying, he meddled with Mike Shanahan with RG3, saying no more read option, no more pistol. With RG3 after he got injured his rookie season. And, to Mike Shanahan's point and Kyle Shanahan's point is like RG3 is not ready to be a pocket passer yet, and he wasn't. We saw how that ended up. And I think that's weakness of leadership in Freddie Kitchens. Now, let me say this. Having watched Washington, I'm not the biggest Jay Gruden fan because I thought he made some big mistakes in his defensive personnel hiring. For example, he could have had Wade Phillips and the guy Mike Pettin in Green Bay. So I think he made some really bad personnel decisions in the defensive side of the ball. But as a play caller, Jay Gruden wants to run the ball and then use that to feed, right? I think Jay Gruden would be a great match. Another former Washington Redskins head coach that's gathering dust right now because he's old and crusty is Mike Shanahan. I said this on Get Paid. You pair Mike Shanahan, a run-first guy with Nick Chubb, and then you got basically Baker Mayfield running naked bootlegs and just hitting guys single coverage. You put those kinds of guys, like a run-first guy, the guy Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, what he's doing in Green Bay. I mean, you get a run-first guy in there, this whole thing's going to open up. I think the answer for Cleveland is you fire Freddie Kitchens, which I think will happen based on Haslam's track record, especially if they don't, and they're going to have an easier back half of the schedule, so that maybe they'll go on a run and Kitchens will save his job. But for Cleveland fans, I would hope not. And I'm rooting for Cleveland. I want Cleveland to be a good team, but this team is unlikable, and it's not because of the players, in my opinion. I think it's because of Kitchens, man. They just bugs the crap out of me.
No, man, we're gonna see what they're made of. They gotta try to pull out of this, because the expectations in them, and I saw like their Super Bowl odds were like really high, and it just seemed like a little too much. Yeah, just a little too much too quick for Cleveland.
Yeah, and I don't have any like Baker. I do think he should be in a little bit of better shape, but if he's spending that time in the film room, I'm not going to bang him on that too much. But I saw it with him on the sideline in that San Francisco game, and that's a game that actually Brad and I analytically we called that. I mean, to a T. We knew it. It was one of our pick six that we hit last week. I think we were 5-1 in our pick six. So we just had a great week last week, but. Yeah, I mean, Baker looked dissatisfied and discontented, and I think eventually he's going to realize that Kitchens is kind of screwing him over. And I like Baker. Baker's a winner. He's been a winner everywhere, and I think he'll be a winner in Cleveland. I don't think he's like Johnny Manziel. I think he's completely different. And I think the problem here is with Freddie Kitchens. And I'll say this about the Rams too, with all this Todd Gurley. Is he washed up? Isn't he? He's not washed up. I think it's the same thing. I think people are starting to talk about the offensive line a little bit. That's an issue, but the issue to me is Sean McVay. Nobody wants to criticize Sean McVay because he's been so lights out for 2 years. Sean McVay's going away from the run game early, way too early. If you just chill out and be patient, like Green Bay does, like these teams. Baltimore is a great example of this. They're just going to run the ball. Who's the team? Oakland, John Gruden. They're just going to run the ball, and if they get 3 yards a carry against Chicago like they did in London, they got way more than that. But John Gruden was going to commit to that run regardless if he was getting 3 yards or 5 yards a carry. And that's what some of these teams need to do, especially the teams with younger running backs. And that's why I like Baltimore, because Greg Roman will do that. That's why I'm very confident that the Rams are going to turn it around this season, because I'm sure Sean McVay will figure out the offensive line and all that stuff and commit to Gurley. And I'm less inclined to believe in Cleveland this year, because I don't think Freddie Kitchens is strong enough. If the front office is giving him pressure, which may or may not be happening, this is just my theory based on what I've seen in Washington and how volatile that Haslam looks, and Dorsey's a little weird to me. I don't think Freddie Kitchens will stand up to that. And I definitely don't think Freddie Kitchens is patient enough as a play caller to stick with the run game if it's not working. I think you're right, Sam. I think he's trying to force the ball to Odell Beckham because he has this fantastic weapon. It's like, having gold in your pocket, and he's trying to spend it rather than be like, let's put it in the bank, or maybe let's reinvest it in some better stuff. So I think this team is talented. I know they have to work on some things in the offensive line. It seems like they have some issues in the secondary as well. I mean, they're giving up yardage, but the team is good enough. They have the talent, and they can turn things around, but I don't think Freddie Kitchens is the guy. So I'm selling on Cleveland this year, and I'll be buying on them depending on who they hire the next time around.
Right.
Yeah. What else we got, man? What are you getting into this week? I think we're pretty much close to the end of the episode. I don't have any alien discussion this week.
No, I'm watching a little bit of preseason NBA basketball.
Oh, nice.
Zion had a night last night.
I saw
12 for 13. He just moves a lot better than I thought he would on an NBA court. I get it's preseason, but I mean, he can get to the lane and he can get to wherever he wants, and his passing, out of a double team, or his dribble penetration to kickouts is really impressive. But yeah, he was a force. They played the Bulls last night. He was a force last night.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're gonna be a fun team. They're gonna be a fun team to watch. And I'm
excited for the Pelicans. I'm excited to watch them and kind of see what they can do over the season. I think they'll make the playoffs. That's my prediction.
I mean, let's hope. I mean, the West is super stacked. I think if they were in the East, they'd be a 5th seed.
Yeah, they would have to sneak into the 8th seed. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. But they got some, good mix of they got some good veterans on that team, and then a bunch of young guys who all want to prove stuff. So, that's my like sleeper, guilty pleasure team this year.
Yeah, I saw
that and they have 5 Duke players on the team. So.
And Lonzo Ball changed his stroke there, huh?
Yeah, it looks good.
Looks good, right?
He distanced from his dad, and
did he? That's nice.
Yeah, dropped wearing those crab ass shoes. So yeah, he's kind of his own man now. Yeah, big baller brand. So yeah, he's out there on his own. I think he's going to be trying to prove to a lot of people. I'm pulling for that kid.
Yeah,
I don't like his dad. I think his dad's an asshole.
I think his dad wants to be famous, and he's using his sons to be famous. I think distancing himself from his dad and getting traded to New Orleans actually helps that too, like geographic distance. And then I see I don't know if you saw, Sam, yesterday I started integrating more of the Underdog Podcast Network's stuff into YouTube. So I ended up starting to load season previews. I got the first crop out there, but there was also a piece that I liked also from the Underdog about LaMelo Ball's draft stock is skyrocketing now that he's
Right,
overseas
yeah.
playing. It's like the further they all get away from their dad, the better things go for those kids. So maybe their middle kid, isn't he playing in like Latvia or Lithuania or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know what the middle kid's doing.
No, I heard he's
never been a pro prospect,
Yeah.
in all reality. If you didn't listen to his dad, he was never on any kind of charts or anything, and the Lakers brought him in for their D-League team, but I
Right.
think they did that as a
favor and just shut up.
favor type, favor and a shut up move. But smart move. LaMelo has cost himself some money by being with his dad. Probably a $15 million shoe contract that his dad pissed away. For
How did he
him.
do
And
that? Was it because of the big baller thing, or?
Yeah, they didn't take any meetings, and they were like, "Listen, we're just going to do our own company," which is admirable in some respects, but in order to get your own shoe line like off the ground, it's not something you can partake in 4 months. Those shoes never got sent out; they never really got made, and he had to switch shoes, sometimes 4 times a game because they were made like such crap. And they never took any other meetings, but Nike, Adidas, they were all vying for him when he was coming out of college.
Right.
And, probably a standard rookie deal for a top 5 pick.
Oh, you're talking. Sorry, you said LaMelo. You're talking about Lonzo.
Oh, Lonzo. Yeah. Lonzo. No, LaMelo's taking all those meetings, and LaMelo's going to get himself a nice check from a sneaker deal.
Good.
And I hope he breaks off some to his brother, because he had to take those arrows first, because, Pops told him to wear the company brand, and cost himself a good amount of money, man.
Yeah.
And that's money you're never going to get back. So, I would imagine that would, force some distance there for a little bit. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a good season. I'm hoping that I can watch a lot more NBA, but probably what's end up, because YouTube and NFL analytics are ruling my life. So it's probably going to be, I'm going to let you carry the burden,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do my best to catch. I guess like
Gladly.
we do in the NFL, right? But
Yeah, gladly.
yeah, that'll be good. Like I'm actually thinking YouTube-wise, Sam. Because we have the channel, and I think we actually have the beginnings of actually like a really nice sports network. The more that we integrate like Underdog Podcasts, I guess I'm talking to the wider audience here, but I'm talking to you too, just because I think it's interesting, and I'm having a lot of fun doing this too. I'm a marketer, Sam, as you know. I've been in marketing. I have content management certifications. I'm YouTube certified. Like I do that by trade, so I kind of have fun doing this stuff. Trying to grow, breathe life into a project, but I can see that. Once we get Chris and the full Underdog network integrated, because Chris is underwater too, so I'm thinking he and I are going to like actually do a show. I don't know if it's going to be a weekly thing or what. Honestly, we still haven't figured it out, but we're doing that. I found some other people to start creating content, more video content, rather than just have me out there. But I can see already that the Underdog is strong between you and then some other specialty shows we have, and the Underdog itself. We have a lot of really good NBA stuff. So I think we have really nice coverage between NFL and NBA, between what, Chris, you, and what I'm doing on the NFL side. And Chris also does NFL stuff. And then we have the You're Wrong, Here's Why segments going. I think that's going to be a hit. I think that's perfect for YouTube, especially once we start getting video presentations of that stuff. It's going to be a cool little network, I think. And I think we're actually going to end up splitting. I bet you we'll end up splitting longer term into an NFL network, an NBA network, and then maybe a general interest network. So yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, man, y'all are doing good things out there.
Yeah, it's busy.
I know.
It's busy, but it's fun. It's fun busy, but it's busy, man. This is so freaking busy.
Man.
But all good. I think we can call that an episode, brother.
All right, brother. Well, we're about a week away from our annual guys trip.
That's right.
I'm sure
it's
we'll
going to
have
be
some
mustache
good
week
stories
for me next week.
When we get back, we'll have some good stories, so look for that.
I'm sure, and some things for me to complain about, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure.
I'm for the YouTube audience, I'm holding my hand over my face. Sam, I know you can see it too, even though we don't put your video up because you have a career to worry about. I do not. But this is gonna be mustache week. I don't know if I'm gonna do all week or not. As we were saying, I'll see how much my wife can suffer. She and I will make a joint decision on that. But there will be a mustache for at least one episode of Pick Six. There will be a mustache. maybe half an episode of Get Paid next week, or I'm not Get Paid, our show, Functional Sportsaholic. So it might be a late week mustache. We'll see. Anyway, hey everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe both in Apple Podcasts. You can find the link in the show notes if you're watching on YouTube. Likewise, if you're on Apple Podcasts, you can find the link in the show notes below for YouTube. Subscribe on both of those channels. Like I was just saying, there's a ton of content, not just me, not just this show. There's a lot of stuff. We're growing. I can already see what's out there. We're in terms of content, we got a ton of content. So we just need more people to watch the videos, then we become the YouTube partner and yada, yada, yada. It's a whole process. So the best way you can help, it's all free. Just subscribe and watch some videos. That's basically it. Subscribe and listen to some podcasts. That's also it. And we'll keep doing everything we can do to give you the best content every single week. So go out and be good.
Be good.